All right. We're here to announce the arrest in connection with the shooting of 10 individuals from 23rd and Huntington from this month. Actually, we are very concerned. It was actually the end of last month. Very concerned about this incident. It was a very brazen and callous act of violence that unfortunately happens all too often in cities across this country. When you factor in things like poverty, unemployment, gun violence, and guns in general, the widespread use and availability of guns is a major issue. Despite those things, though, I refuse to believe that we cannot do anything about it. And so we're going to remain vigilant, and we have a few asks before I turn it over to Captain Banford to the public at large, and one of which is a very simple one, and that is if you could just simply call us with intelligence before things happen so we can use it as a preventive measure so that we can prevent people from being harmed in this way, from violent predators like we just saw in this incident. That would be immensely helpful. There are ways for you to do this without putting yourself in harm's way, and these things typically help us greatly. The second thing is the fact that we are involved in a number of programs in Philly PD aimed at mentoring and things like that. I can give you a list of those later at a later date, but I say that to say that we are willing to work on these things in a rather unconventional ways for the police department, because we know we have to play roles beyond what we typically play. In addition to which, people who are willing to mentor, we got plenty of people out there today who do wonderful things. I can name many of them. We're hopeful that there are other people who will get involved with us in this endeavor. We know that trust and legitimacy in policing is something that has to happen. We know that we play a part in that, but we know that we cannot be the only entity in this fight. And so we're going to keep working hard in this city in particular to stave off gun violence. We know that there are people willing to step up and help us, and that's what we're asking for. Even to the degree that there are people out there who may have been down that path, who are willing to step up to some young people and say, I've been there, don't go there. I mean, just every little thing will help. I also want to say that Captain Banford and the members of Central Detectives did an outstanding piece of police work. We're very proud of all the men and women in Philly PD. Our investigators are top-notch without question, and the work that they did to bring this investigation to a close is absolutely remarkable. So I can't say enough about what he did in his leadership, as well as the men and women that he had working under his charge. And so I'm going to turn it over to him so he can give you whatever details that he has available that will help you in your coverage.
Thanks, sir. Good afternoon. I'll start out by giving a scenario of this job. It was Saturday about 10:30. We had a group of, say, 25, 30 people, including women and children, out celebrating, listening to music, and dancing on the corner of 23rd and Huntington. When we had two males approach and fire 27 rounds into the crowd, 2 different caliber bullets. They didn't care who they hit. They didn't care whatever collateral damage was done. But through investigation, we found out that it was indeed just one male that they were trying to strike. This male was in the crowd. That meant nothing to these guys. Okay, I want to commend Detective Michael Rocks and Detective Mike Rapisi, who worked tirelessly on this job. They searched for witnesses. In fact, we had 9 victims originally. While searching for witnesses, they found a 10th victim who had a graze wound on his hand. Okay, as a result of this tireless effort in the community looking for witnesses, we were able to identify 2 shooters. This stems from an ongoing argument, and I'll leave it at that because I want to protect the identity of our witnesses. I'm not saying there would be retaliation, but I'm using common sense just in case. The 2 males we have a warrant for: number 1, Tyrell Broadnax. It's Broadnax. He's a 19-year-old black male from the 900 block of West Arizona Street. He turned himself in to us, and he was processed today. We have another offender, a Quadrir, Quadir, Burley, Burley. He is an 18-year-old black male who resides in the 1500 block of West Lehigh Avenue. He is currently in Montgomery County Prison. He was arrested there after this incident on a theft charge and also an ongoing investigation that they have going. Tomorrow we have a writ to pick him up and bring him to Philadelphia and formally charge him along with the other male with 10 counts of attempted murder. If there's any questions?
The victim that they were aiming for, was he among the 10 that were shot?
Yes, he was close by, and when he saw the males, he actually ran towards the crowd.
What do we know about the ongoing argument?
I really don't want to get into that. It's basically threats involved amongst different groups, and in fact, some things are stupid that they're fighting over. Okay, and they took the opportunity. It may have been going on for a year, and they took this opportunity to target him at 23rd and Huntington.
Can you talk about the range of injuries? I know 2 were critically injured and how they were injured.
We had one guy who was pretty bad. We were concerned we were going to lose him. In fact, he got called back in for a 7-hour surgery because of a lung infection. He was hit in the stomach. We were very concerned about him. But right now, it looks like he's on the road to recovery.
And the other injuries were just raised wounds,
Well, we had some severe injuries. I wouldn't say critical injuries, but they were hit in different spots on the body. Some grazed wounds.
What is the mindset of someone who do something like that? With your experience?
My experience, he just don't care. He just don't care who he injures. He's well aware, both of them were well aware that they were shooting into a pack full of women and children. I mean, what kind of guy does that? This guy belongs behind bars. Can't be on the street.
still 1 woman and 9 men?
Yes.
Do you know who had the major beef? Was it both guys who had the issue
don't want to
with one
disclose that.
target?
You don't want to disclose who, right? Or did you?
No.
So, I mean, while the captain wisely is deciding not to go into the details of the motive other than an argument, it is absolutely idiotic, as he kind of alluded to, but sadly, it just mirrors what we see almost every day. Whether it be other cases involving some type of disrespect on social media, or some slight, or some issue dealing with a girl, or any host of other things that we may be confronted with. It's usually things that should never rise to the level of gun violence. And clearly, we could never stand here and say that it would ever be a reason to fire 9 people, but as Frank said, to do this in this fashion, such a brazen way, there's no reason to do it at one person. And so this is what we have to try to appeal to these young, particularly men, why they have to find a way to deal with conflict resolution. They have to find a way to resolve their issues without resorting to guns. And right now, in this country, it is a major issue. It just is. And until we contend with that as a nation, we're going to continue to see these problems, and police departments all across this country will be putting their fingers in the dikes, if you will, just to try to deal with symptoms. Because we all know there are other things that are inherent in these problems that are precursors that come up long before we get involved. And so we're going to continue to do our part because that's what we're tasked with doing. We will never leave any stone unturned in terms of what we do with regard to tactics and working with community. But I got to tell you, it is extremely frustrating to see this stuff day in and day out. But you know what? We will remain vigilant in what we do, and we just hopeful that we'll be able to cultivate relationships across this city. We have many, and we want many more, where people can feel comfortable doing just what I asked, letting us know beforehand. I'm tired of talking about stories after the fact. I mean, I want us to start talking about this issue as it relates to a preemptive thing, talking about ways we can deal and prevent these issues from happening. I think that's what we have to do more of. And I think there are people out there willing to do this with us, and that's what we're just asking for, more people to get involved. That's all right? I think no more questions, right?
One more, or at least one more. Was the targeted, the person who was targeted, was he among the injured?
Was a person who was targeted? Yes, he was.
Was he armed?
I don't have any information about him being armed. As far as I know, these two individuals were shooting at a bunch of unarmed people. Cowardly thing to do. You shouldn't be shooting on the street anyway. This is a city. I mean, you want to shoot a gun, go to a range and shoot a gun. I mean, you certainly don't shoot at people. And but sadly, there's a lot of people who didn't get that message, and they continue to do it again for the most inane and ridiculous reasons imaginable. But you know, we're going to continue to do what we do. We're going to continue to be proactive, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to dramatically reduce this gun violence in the years to come.
How supportive is the community in this investigation?
Well, whenever you're in a neighborhood that's really low income and, you know, and crime occurs, a lot of crime occurs, they have concerns for their own safety. And I would have the same concerns. But in this instant, we were able to get cooperation.
Were you able to find guns? Did you recover the weapons?
No weapons were recovered as of now.
Thank you, guys.
Commissioner Ross, can I ask you about the double homicide from yesterday with the two people were found in the car? Is there any movement or update on that case?
My last update, they didn't have a lot to go on right now. They're still trying to figure out what the motive may have been. And that's one of the frustrating aspects of that. Certainly appears from the evidence that someone was in that car by the angle of the gunshots, but I'm not sure of that. It leads you to believe that perhaps they either knew or allowed the person to be in the car for whatever reason. But again, the last update, I did not receive any information that suggested they had any solid direction. Anybody else?